This was the last family standing in Ras Ein al-Auja, the largest Bedouin community in the southern Jordan Valley. Now they're being forced to leave a place that many generations of their family have called home because of relentless Israeli settler attacks. Burning homes, vandalizing property, and assaulting residents. The UN warned 72,000 farming and herding families in the occupied West Bank now require urgent emergency assistance.
To my fellow Americans, every time you get paid and you look at that pay stub, you see the amount of federal taxes that get taken out, just understand that you, my fellow American, are paying for the terror that you're seeing on the screen. Now, the Israeli government is continuing to facilitate escalating settler violence against Palestinians in the West Bank, which of course has nothing to do with Gaza or Hamas, but nonetheless, we have multiple examples to prove just how this violence and theft is being carried out by Israeli settlers. First, let's take a look at the West Bank village of Ras Ein al-Auja. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Ras Ein al-Auja. There we go. This is where Palestinians have been forced out thanks to repeated attacks and harassment from Israeli settlers. So the Israeli government is refusing to do anything about it. In fact, I mean, look, most of the time the IDF stands by to provide protection for the settlers who are carrying out the violence against Palestinians. So to think the Israeli government would do anything to protect Palestinians, whether it's in Gaza or the West Bank, is laughable to me. They literally think it's okay to slaughter their children. They make justifications for it. But anyway, on January 19th, at least 77 Palestinian Bedouin and herding households comprising 375 people, including 186 children and 91 women, began dismantling their structures and relocating from the community following intensified attacks, threats, and intimidation by Israeli settlers, particularly during nighttime hours. Now, this is something we've been seeing on screen for the entirety of the Gaza genocide, right? And even though this is a different territory from Gaza, it didn't stop the Israelis from carrying out violence against Palestinians in the West Bank. So this followed the forcible displacement of 21 families. That's 110 people, including 61 children, on January 8th, after a series of settler attacks that included the physical assault and injury of an elderly man, cutting of solar electricity cables, and plowing of privately owned land. Because if Israeli settlers aren't stealing land, what good are they, right? That's all they do. They feel entitled to it. They're thieves. They're the worst of us, meaning the worst of us in the human race. But anyway, the village is surrounded by 4 illegal settlement outposts, all established since April of 2024. And in the past few years, violence perpetrated against Palestinians there has skyrocketed. So between 2017 and 2023, OCHA recorded only 2 settler attacks, resulting in casualties and or property damage in this community. But by contrast, 36 such attacks were documented in 2024 and at least 38 in 2025. Over the past 2 years, residents have endured nearly daily settler incursions, resulting in injuries, property damage, restricted access to pastures, and the nearby al-Auja spring and the theft of hundreds of livestock. A lot of this is documented. The videos are horrific and difficult to watch, but if you have interest in watching them, you can find them. One resident also said that if you sleep, the settlers will burn your house. So when Biden was willing to sit back and allow Israel to totally dismantle international law, to consistently violate international norms, rules of engagement, all of that. What that did is pave the way for Israel to do anything it wants. The reason why the attacks against Palestinians in the West Bank have increased in recent years is because the message we have sent to Israel specifically, because we have higher standards for every other country, but when it comes to Israel, no standards, no rules, no standards. You get to behave in any way you want. And if you allow genocidal creeps to do whatever they want, they're going to carry out genocide, they're going to carry out land theft, and they're going to brutalize innocent people. And that's what's been happening. So as angry as I am with Donald Trump, because he's been total horse crap on foreign policy, period, but especially on the topic of Israel, he's been terrible. Biden's handling paved the way for what we're seeing today. And I really need Democratic voters to continue applying the pressure on Democratic candidates and incumbents if they continue to provide support for a country that's supposed to represent the antithesis of American values. But sadly, I think they actually represent what our values really are at the moment. And I would like to move away from that because it's shameful, embarrassing, immoral, and inhumane. So what has law enforcement done about this? According to Israeli paper Haaretz, in the past 2 years, the Israeli military has often sided with the settlers. The police always came late, if at all, and never took meaningful action because the theft is the point. Now, because of the escalating violence, villagers filed a petition with the High Court of Justice just this past March. But the case wasn't actually heard until this week. That's how long it took. When the last 2 remaining families in the area were reportedly forced to leave thanks to relentless tormenting from the Israeli settlers. So the residents had requested that the court prohibit Israelis from entering the community's residential area and to provide protection to stop these attacks from happening, to stop the theft and harassment from the settlers. Their lawyer, Shlomo Lecker, also told the court that residents must be given a safe way to return to the homes they were forced out of. So Lecker also added that even if the court decides to allow the residents to return, the requested closure order will not suffice because the settlers do not obey court orders. Well, then they should be thrown in prison. Right? That's the way you're supposed to handle it. You're supposed to throw them in prison. They are not following the law. But that's not what happens here. He asked the justices to instruct the defense establishment how to act in the area for about 60 days, during which the families will return to their land. But the Israeli government is essentially shooting that plan down because, again, the cruelty, the land theft, the terrorizing is the point. This is not something that's happening accidentally and the Israeli government doesn't know about it. They are facilitating it. The Council for the State told the court that a plan for the villagers' return could be made. He also added, however, that the brigade commander in the area has determined there was no justification for an order closing it to Israelis. When the justices asked what actions the state could take so that the community could return on its land, the representative of the government, meaning the Israeli government, said that while there had been talk of stationing a permanent force there, that won't happen due to a shortage of military personnel. It's whatever excuse. You take it. This is what you should do. Take the excuse. Oh, Israelis are saying something. Okay, here. Liars. You shouldn't take anything they say at face value. The terrorism is the point. The land theft is the point. They are facilitating it. Anyway, while Benjamin Netanyahu and the Israeli government sometimes pretends to condemn settler violence, in reality, they're directly helping to facilitate it. And I want to show you the goods. Okay, so as the Guardian explains, the foot soldiers in this war of Israeli expansion are young men, including minors, sent to outposts by the state under a program for at-risk youth. Settlers attack Palestinians using all-terrain vehicles and other equipment handed out at public ceremonies by politicians, including the far-right finance minister Bezalel Smotrich, himself a terrorist and settler. And I mean it when I say terrorist. So look, Palestinians don't have weapons, and the Israeli government is handing out weapons to Israeli settlers. So this asymmetrical situation that we see playing out in Gaza plays out across the board when it comes to how the Israelis treat the Palestinians. So you give these terrorists firearms to use against a population of people who have no weapons. And so they get forced out of their homes. They become homeless because these grotesque settlers steal their homes, steal their land. And we are paying for it. We, the American people, are paying for it. And government ministries have also directly funded the illegal farming outposts by providing settlers there with subsidies for raising livestock. And believe it or not, things are getting even worse than they already were, because just this Monday, Defense Minister Israel Katz announced that he is advancing the legalization of 140 farming outposts, illegal farming outposts in the West Bank, and that's according to the Times of Israel. Israeli papers tend to report the truth because the Israeli population likes this. They celebrate it. So the Israeli publications don't have to hide what the government's actually doing. It's amazing, it really is. He says he has the full support of Netanyahu and Smotrich to do this, by the way, which doesn't surprise me. Speaking in a video message to a conference of appreciation for illegal farming outposts, Israel Katz lauded those involved in those endeavors as the pioneers of our days and praised them for their work in weakening the Palestinians' effort to establish themselves in the region. This wonderful and important project is the direct continuation of our pioneering settlement across the generations from the beginnings of Zionism until today. So, do people hate Israel because they're anti-Semitic, or do they hate Israel because of the behavior of the Israeli government? I mean, if you're a reasonable person, you know the answer to that. It's the latter. I've been doing this job for almost 20 years. I have never been accused of being an anti-Semite once until this genocide in Gaza started. And I started, speaking my mind, yes, aggressively, and clearly stating why I'm making the arguments I'm making, providing the receipts. But, the bad actors want to just kind of sum it all up as, oh, you're an anti-Semite. It's not about the innocent people that are getting slaughtered. It's about my feelings. And I feel aggrieved that you're criticizing my favorite country. Well, then F off. F off. And if you think, oh, you care about the people of Gaza, but you're not talking about Iran, or I'm gonna talk about whatever the hell I want to talk about. How about that? I'm gonna talk about whatever I want to talk about. There are people suffering in many countries all across the globe. We don't aid and abet that suffering unless, of course, it's Israel. In that case, we will literally take our own people, throw them on the back burner as they're struggling, and take our resources to help Israel carry out genocide, land theft, empire expansion. We will spend our resources on fighting wars on behalf of Israel, as we've been doing for many decades now. That's why people hate Israel. I don't care if you're Jewish. I don't care if you're Christian. I don't care if you're Muslim. I don't care. I don't care at all. Because I understand the complexities of human beings, and I understand that making generalizations about an entire group of people based on their religion or ethnicity is what stupid people do. Stupid people also try to shut people like me up by smearing me as an anti-Semite when I am clearly being critical of a genocidal regime in the Middle East. And that's Israel. And I'm gonna keep running my mouth about it because I don't think our country should be supporting Israel with our resources or anything else. I think we need to decouple. Anyway, according to reporting from Israeli media, only an incident that had a clear intent to kill would be considered a terror attack by the settlers. Under the new definition, arson attacks on buildings or unoccupied vehicles will be classified as a serious incident. Cool, so does that go both ways? Can Palestinians commit arson against Israeli homes or vehicles? And that's not considered terrorism, it's just a serious incident. Worst people on the planet.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.